strap yourselves in because today we are going deep on terraforming Mars.
Oh, yeah.
We're talking about turning that red, dusty planet into a second Earth.
A second home for humanity.
We've got a whole stack of research here going into all the crazy challenges and the even crazier solutions that scientists are coming up with.
Yeah, some wild ideas out there.
And even what AI could do in this whole multi-generational project.
It's fascinating stuff.
Before we jump in, though, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel.
Yeah, we'd really appreciate that.
And hey, share this episode with your friends, the more other opinions.
Merrier.
Okay, so to really get how wild this idea is, we need to start with where Mars is at right now.
Yeah, a little reality check.
Think average temperatures of -80 Fahrenheit. A super thin atmosphere. It's mostly carbon dioxide.
Not exactly breathable.
And air pressure that's basically nothing compared to Earth.
Yeah, you wouldn't last long out there without a spacesuit.
And forget about swimming in a Martian lake.
Right.
There's no liquid water on the surface.
It's a pretty hostile place.
Yeah, it's incredibly hostile, and that obviously throws up some pretty major roadblocks if we're talking about making it livable.
Yeah, we're talking about fundamentally changing the temperature, the atmosphere, the whole water situation.
You need water.
And even dealing with the radiation problem.
Oh yeah, that's a big one.
It's a project of almost unimaginable scale.
So where do you even begin with something like this?
Well, one idea is...
Well, our sources suggest that step one is cranking up the heat.
Yeah, we got to warm things up.
This idea keeps popping up about using these massive orbital mirrors.
Huge mirrors in space.
Yet to focus sunlight onto Mars's polar ice caps.
Right, melt those ice caps.
The idea is you melt the ice and it releases trapped greenhouse gases, mainly CO2.
Exactly.
And the hope is that this could kickstart this runaway greenhouse effect.
Kind of like what we're worried about here on Earth.
Yeah.
But on Mars, we want that.
We want that on Mars that leads to a thicker atmosphere and a warmer planet.
Yeah, more like Earth.
Some researchers even suggest going a step further.
Oh, yeah.
And manufacturing super potent greenhouse gases like fluorocarbons.
Really pump up the atmosphere.
Using elements that are found on Mars.
Wow, that's some serious planetary engineering.
But even if we pull all that off, our sources say that even with all that extra CO2, the atmospheric pressure on Mars would only get to 30% of what we have here.
So still not great.
Not exactly a walk in the park for us humans.
Right.
But it's a step in the right direction.
For sure. It would at least make the surface, less immediately deadly.
Right.
But then we run into the next massive hurdle.
Which is?
Oxygen.
Right, we need oxygen.
To create a breathable atmosphere, we need to figure out how to pump a whole lot of O2 into that Martian air.
And there are a couple of ways people are thinking about tackling this.
Yeah, a couple of schools of thought.
One is to play the long game, literally talking about centuries of work.
Wow.
This involves introducing photosynthetic organisms, like cyanobacteria, or even genetically engineered plants.
Oh, wow, so they just slowly, over time, convert that CO2 into oxygen.
Yeah?
That's a fascinating idea, but it brings up another challenge.
What's that?
Martian soil, it lacks nitrogen. Which is essential for plants and for a balanced atmosphere.
So then what?
Yeah, so we start importing tons of nitrogen from Earth.
Or can we find a way to extract it from Martian rocks?
Right.
These are all questions that scientists are trying to figure out.
Yeah, big questions.
It feels like every answer just leads to more questions.
Yeah, that's science for you.
If you're enjoying this deep dive, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe.
We appreciate the support.
And we love reading all your other opinions in the comments.
Keep them coming.
Okay, back to the oxygen problem.
Right.
Another approach, and this one's definitely more industrial, is using these massive oxygen generators.
Wow, like factories on Mars?
Pretty much, they would be powered by either nuclear reactors or these sprawling solar farms. Wow. And they would essentially split CO2 molecules to produce oxygen.
Interesting. So it's definitely a faster method than the Vance, but the energy demands must be insane.
It's mind-boggling.
Yeah, we'd need technology way beyond what we have now.
Like building a whole new industrial revolution on another planet.
It really is.
Then there's the issue of water.
Right, of course we need water.
Mars does have some frozen water at its poles, and underground warming the planet up might release some of that.
Right, but to have oceans and lakes...
We need way more H2O.
Way more.
And this leads to one of the most audacious ideas out there.
What is that?
Redirecting icy comets or asteroids to crash into Mars.
Whoa, hold on, deliberately crashing them into Mars?
Sounds like a sci-fi movie, right?
Yeah, that's crazy.
But theoretically, it could deliver massive amounts of water.
I mean, I guess so, but...
Of course, the logistics are just insane.
You're talking about steering these giant chunks of ice across the solar system and making sure they hit the right spot.
And even if we could pull that off, who knows what kind of chaos that would unleash on the Martian surface.
Right, would it just completely wreck the planet?
It's definitely a high-risk, high-reward scenario.
Speaking of risks, let's not forget about the big one.
Oh, yeah.
Radiation.
Mars doesn't have a global magnetic field to protect it from all that harmful radiation from the sun and space.
Right, unlike Earth.
A thicker atmosphere might help a bit.
Give us some shielding.
But for a long-term solution, we're probably looking at living mainly underground.
Underground cities.
So figuring out some crazy way to jumpstart a Martian magnetic field.
I don't even know where we'd begin with that.
Honestly, that sounds like something we're centuries away from even understanding.
Right, let alone actually doing it.
Who do you think? Let us know your other opinions down in the comments.
Yeah, we're curious to hear your thoughts.
It's a challenge that really pushes the boundaries of our understanding.
It really does.
But that's what makes this topic so fascinating.
Yeah, it forces us to think outside the box and consider solutions that seem impossible right now.
Totally. And remember, if you're enjoying this discussion, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel.
Yeah, and tell your friends about it.
We'll be right back to dive even deeper into this whole terraforming Mars thing.
Can't wait.
Don't forget to share this episode with your friends, too. We love hearing from new voices.
The more the merrier. Before we were talking about some of the big hurdles with terraforming Mars.
Right, like how do we actually do this?
But let's talk about, like, the timeline.
Okay.
How long would it actually take to turn Mars into somewhere we could live?
Yeah, that's the question, isn't it?
The trillion-dollar question, maybe?
Given how huge this project would be?
Our sources, they give us a pretty wide range of estimates.
Okay, so like what are we talking?
From a few centuries at the low end to several thousand years.
Wow, okay.
It all depends on who you ask.
That's a huge difference.
It is a massive undertaking, no doubt about it.
So if we break it down...
Just to give you an idea, some scientists say that warming up the atmosphere and getting the pressure up,
Okay.
that could take 1 or 2 centuries.
Assuming we can figure out the tech.
Exactly, but creating a breathable atmosphere.
Right, we were talking about that earlier.
That's a whole other challenge.
Okay.
We're talking thousands of years
Wow.
of like carefully managing the whole Martian ecosystem.
And the energy we'd need?
Oh, yeah.
We're talking about harnessing power on a scale that's bigger than anything we've ever done here on Earth.
It really makes you think.
Doesn't it?
This isn't just about, sending a few rockets and planting a flag on Mars.
Right.
This is about, like, fundamentally changing a whole planet to work for us.
This would be a project that would go on for generations.
Yeah, we're talking about needing a level of commitment and long-term vision that's hard to even wrap your head around.
Which brings us to this really interesting idea that we found in one of our sources.
Okay.
They propose this radical idea.
And
What if we could somehow preserve the minds of these, like, visionary leaders?
like who?
Like Elon Musk, for example.
Okay.
In complex computer models.
So like an Elon Musk AI.
Yeah, basically an AI trained on everything he knows, all his decision-making skills, his creativity.
It could keep guiding the terraforming even after he's gone.
Right, like a digital overseer.
Keeping the project going for centuries.
Or even millennia.
Sounds crazy, right?
It's like science fiction.
But we're already seeing like the early stages of this kind of thing.
How so?
With these neural networks that learn from huge data sets of human behavior.
So if we scale that up,
Think about the possibilities.
it's almost like planting a seed for this giant tree.
Right. The early pioneers, the engineers, the scientists, the dreamers, they lay the foundation.
Knowing they won't see the final result.
But their legacy lives on through this huge, multi-generational project.
And we got to shout out the other opinion here. They do a fantastic job covering these mind-blowing topics.
They really dig deep.
And they look at it from all angles.
Definitely worth checking out.
So, okay, back to Mars. Let's imagine we fast forward 1,000 years.
Okay, 1,000 years in the future.
What would a successfully terraformed Mars even look like?
Would it be like Earth 2.0?
Or would it be something totally new?
A whole new kind of planet.
I mean, would Martian civilization still even need those enduring intelligences?
The AIs we were talking about?
Yeah, would they have developed their own governments, their own ways of making decisions?
Would they have their own cultures and traditions shaped by living on Mars?
Would they even look back at Earth as their home planet?
Or would they see themselves as something different, a new branch of humanity?
Forging their own path. It's amazing to think about all the possibility.
It really is.
And this leads to another exciting idea.
Oh.
If we figure out how to terraform Mars, why stop there?
Right. Where else could we go?
We could try Venus with its crazy heat and that thick, toxic atmosphere.
Imagine turning that into a paradise.
Or how about those moons of Jupiter?
Like Europa or Ganymede?
They might have huge oceans under all that ice,
We could create whole new ecosystems there.
full of life, in places where we never thought it's possible.
It's mind-blowing to think about.
The possibilities are pretty much endless.
We're just at the beginning of all this, and the challenges are huge, but
But
the potential payoff is so big, so transformative, it's hard not to get excited about what the future holds.
it's truly inspiring. What do you think? Let us know your other opinions in the comments.
Yeah, we're always interested in hearing your thoughts.
And don't forget to like and subscribe to support the channel.
Every little bit helps.
You're just scratching the surface of what might be possible.
It's an incredible time to be alive.
And who knows, maybe someday, thanks to all the scientists and engineers and dreamers out there,
All working together.
this vision of a multiplanetary humanity will actually become real.
Wouldn't that be amazing?
Stick with us, because next we'll get into some concrete steps we can take right now.
To start making this dream happen.
And remember, if you're loving this deep dive, share it with your friends.
Let's spread the word.
Let's get more people talking about this stuff. So we've been talking about this big vision of terraforming Mars.
Yeah, turning it into a second home for humanity.
But let's get practical for a minute.
Okay, bring it down to Earth.
What are some things we could be doing, like right now, to actually make this happen?
Well, one area where we can make some real progress is robotics.
Robots on Mars.
We need machines that can handle that harsh Martian environment.
Yeah, it's not exactly a walk in the park out there.
We need robots that can build stuff, extract resources, run experiments, basically be our advanced team on the ground.
It's like sending our robot explorers ahead of us.
Exactly, and we're already seeing some amazing robots here on Earth.
Oh yeah, like what?
Self-driving cars, robots working in factories, even surgical robots.
It's not crazy to think we could adapt that technology for Mars.
Not at all. And speaking of technology, let's talk about energy.
Okay, because we're going to need a lot of it.
To power those robots, the habitats, and eventually entire Martian cities.
We'll need something way more powerful than what we have now.
Fusion power might be the key.
Yeah, with its clean and almost limitless energy.
It could be a game changer.
But it's still mostly theoretical, right?
Yeah, we're not quite there yet.
We need to put a lot more into research and development to make it work for a mission like this.
Absolutely. Another big piece is life support system.
Right, keeping humans alive on Mars.
We're talking about creating closed-loop ecosystems.
What does that mean?
Systems that can sustain human life in this totally alien environment.
Like a little bubble of Earth on Mars.
Exactly. Think growing food, recycling water and air, even making oxygen all inside a sealed habitat.
That sounds super complicated.
It is, but we're not starting from nothing.
What do you mean?
Scientists are already experimenting with growing crops in controlled environments using hydroponics and aeroponics.
I've heard of those.
And we're learning more all the time about efficient waste management and recycling.
So we're getting there.
We are, and we can't forget about the astronauts themselves.
The human factor.
Yeah, we need to prepare them for the physical and mental challenges of living on Mars.
It's not just about getting them there.
It's about making sure they can actually thrive there.
So what kind of things are we talking about?
Rigorous training programs, cutting-edge medical tech, and really understanding the psychological effects of long-term space travel.
It's a huge undertaking.
It is, but it's also incredibly exciting.
It really is. Don't forget, if you're finding this deep dive insightful, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel.
Yeah, and share this episode with your friends and family.
Let's get more people thinking about this stuff.
Because this whole terraforming Mars thing,
it's about more than just science and engineering.
it's about the human spirit of exploration.
If we can actually pull this off, make Mars a second home for humans,
It would be one of the greatest achievements in history.
it would change what it even means to be human.
Pushing the boundaries of what we know and what we're capable of.
It would be a whole new chapter for our species.
And it's a story that's just beginning.
That's a great way to put it. And in a way, we're all part of this story.
We are, so keep dreaming big, keep exploring, keep asking questions.
Maybe someday you'll be one of the pioneers walking on a terraformed Mars.
Wouldn't that be something?
That wraps up our deep dive into terraforming Mars.
Hope you enjoyed it.
We covered a lot.
From the mind-blowing challenges to the even more mind-blowing solutions.
If you have any other opinions or thoughts you want to share, head down to the comments.
We love hearing from you.
And if you enjoyed this episode, please hit that like button and subscribe to the deep dive for more explorations into the frontiers of knowledge.
And don't forget to check out The Other Opinion for even more perspectives on the things that matter.
This has been an AI-powered podcast, and some of the information might not be totally accurate, but hopefully it's got you thinking about the future.
And the possibilities that are out there.
Until next time, keep looking up and keep asking questions.